Okay. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the summer 2025 ICBM information session. For those who don't know me, my name is Kirsten Perrin. I am the ICBM program coordinator with the Alberta Lake Management Society. I appreciate everyone taking their afternoons off to join. We're excited to welcome 2 new communities joining us this year for the water quality sampling. So I hope this session will be really informative for you. For all of our existing communities, I hope this continues to be a useful tool to help you with your monitoring. I will be speaking a lot the next hour and a half, so if you do have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type them into the chat. I do have my colleague Kirsten who will be monitoring that, so don't hesitate to ask some questions throughout. This is a really important part of the training, and we just want to make sure everyone's receiving the information okay. And I also just want to extend a really heartfelt thank you to all the communities who have welcomed us onto their lands and the lakes each season. We deeply appreciate the time, the effort, and all the planning that goes into every sampling trip and field visit. It's always an honor and a pleasure to come out and spend time on the water with you. And we get to do that again this summer, so we're truly looking forward to that. Okay, so for today, we'll talk about Alm's role in ICBM for those who don't really know our organization. I'm going to go over the summer program design, what the field sheets look like, how to calibrate the YSI probe, the program protocol in a day. We'll look at the shipping logistics, some next steps, and then I'm actually going to do a short navigational tour of the Google Drive folders that each community is set up with now and is a way to receive all the information. So I'll talk about that at the end as well. Okay, so for those who don't know ALMS, we are the Alberta Lake Management Society. We are a nonprofit organization based out of Edmonton. We've been around since 1991 with a vision of promoting healthy lakes for Alberta's future. Our goal is to help people better understand and care for our lakes by working together through education, hands-on monitoring, and community partnerships. So through our programs, including participatory scientists initiatives like the Lake Watch program, or community-based monitoring like the ICBM program. We also have our citizen science program, Lake Keepers. So through all these programs, it's meant to support lake and recreational beach monitoring across Alberta. We work closely with volunteers, Indigenous communities, and stewardship groups, the watershed planning and advisory councils or WPACs, universities, industry, and government. And all these partnerships are to help collect meaningful long-term data and to build those strong lake stewardship networks in the province. So we do have a small but very dedicated team. It includes 4 permanent staff. You've probably met all of us at some point through the workshops or fish camps or the sampling itself. We currently have 4 seasonal staff that we just onboarded and is going to support a range of projects this summer. In regards to OSUM and ICBM, we do have our own contract with OSUM, which is managed by Keegan Hicks, who many of you probably know and have met and probably manage your own work plans. So we have been approved for the 2025-2026 year, which is great. So through our contract, we provide water quality sampling equipment, such as the probes and the bottle sets. We cover the analytical costs. We offer both online and in-person training, including this webinar. We process the samples at our office. We coordinate the lab analysis, and we help manage the data results. So a core part of our work includes traveling to communities each season. So for those who have participated, you've seen me each season. I like to come out, do a field visit with you, provide that additional hands-on support and training. And we just get to have fun and go out on the lake together and address any questions or concerns that you might have. So for the summer program design, pretty similar to the winter. Obviously, you will receive your YSI Pro Solo probe. So this measures temperature, dissolved oxygen, and connectivity. We also send materials such as the field manual, the field sheets, always updated for each season, the bottle sets, the calibration solution for the probe, the chlorophyll A filtering kit, which I will go through all those steps later on. And then something unique to summer is the Secchi disc. So that's that black and white disc at the top right. So that helps to measure water clarity. So that's all included in your kit. Oh, and a tape and weight to help measure bottom depth. And then for the design, the communities get to choose their lake, rivers, or streams, and then the sites within those water bodies. And these sites can be based on obviously concern with water levels, fish health, algae blooms, just changes observed over time. That's usually the things that communities look at when choosing their lakes. Also, access is an important one too, which we'll talk about later. And then ideally, we want to sample once a month. So for summer, we sample from June to September. So we want to collect a sample from each water body each of those months. And then we also do collect a contaminant suite, given that we are monitoring in the oil sands region, and the goal is to assess cumulative impacts that oil sands have on these lakes and rivers. So we do collect the hydrocarbons, mercury, and metals once per season per lake. And then something also unique to summer is we do a quality control event per community. And that's just to test the lab accuracy and also our own field collection accuracy. And then there,
Oh, well, okay.
oh, sorry, was there a question?
I'm not done.
Okay.
You-
Um, and then we do have a reporting component. So currently, if you've participated in the 2023 to 24 sampling year, you've either received or will be receiving shortly your data report, an interpreted data report, along with the Excel file that contains all the raw lab results. And I've also created the Google Drive folders, which everyone should be set up with, maybe besides the two new communities. I will be setting that up with you. Um, and we'll be navigating that at the end of this presentation. So we are hoping that data sharing agreements, the contracts will be released soon by OSIM governance. I know many of the communities have expressed interest in regional data. So with that consent from the communities, we could start building that out and sharing that data. But for now, all the data reports are individualized to the community and hosted within the community themselves. So when you receive your field manual, there is a list of the sampling equipment that you should receive. So please be sure once you receive all your equipment to look through this list. And please let us know if you're missing anything right away. We want you to make sure you're set up for your first trip. So just take a moment to look through that. That should include your probe, everything within the probe, all the sampling gear, safety gear, your bottle sets for all your lakes or rivers, and then the chlorophyll A filter kit. Okay. And then also listed within the field manual. So we do test for a variety of different parameters, mostly within all the bottles that you guys all have seen before and filled up and labeled. So this can be found in your field manual if you want a more detailed description of what everything means to lake health, why we collect it. But just as an overview, we do collect things like microcystins, which is a toxin within cyanobacteria blooms and a risk to human health. We look at different nutrients and phosphoruses, ammonias, chlorophylls, which is a pigment within the algae. And then again, we do collect those contaminants, the metals, mercuries, and the hydrocarbons. So when you receive your data reports within that, there is a description of these parameters as well, just to give an idea of why we test and how it relates to that lake health. And then again, as many of you have seen, these are our field sheets. So this is the front side. So we have our lake name, our location name. Location name is just a reference point on the lake. You could use north or south basin if that exists on the lake. If there's a summer village, a provincial park, a campground nearby, if your community refers to that point as something, that's where you can write it. Date and time, and then please include the hours spent sampling. We like to know how much time communities are putting into this. It's quite a few hours, it's hard work, and we just like to know how much time it is taking to do this sampling. And then we do have a variety of environmental observations. I will say too, when you receive your field sheets, just make sure that it says summer up top, because the summer and winter environmental observations are different. So for the summer, we do take air temperature, wind speed, and wind direction. These can be found on a weather app. The percent cloud cover, so we just look at that as a percentage when you look over the lake as a whole, how much cloud cover is there. We do ask to record the 24-hour rainfall. I've included, this isn't an updated picture now, but in your field manual, it is, or on your new field sheet, it is updated. There is a website to visit where you can find this information. And then, of course, with summer, we do often see more cyanobacteria or blue-green algae blooms. So in your field manual, I've included pictures to help identify these blooms, as different species can appear in different ways. So they could look like little particles. That's pretty common on a lot of lakes in Alberta. They might look like paint streaks, or they might look like scums, or big mats on the surface, which can happen especially near the beginning of the season too. So there's a space to identify that. And then we have our Secchi depth, which I will talk on how to measure that in a bit. And then we do have color of Secchi disc. So that just means lowering that Secchi disc to just under the surface and comparing the color of the water against that white streak. Sometimes when you look at the water, it can be deceiving. It could look clear, but then when you lower it down and you're actually looking at the color against that white streak, you might find it actually looks more yellow or green or brown. So just record that, please. And then, of course, our GPS coordinates. Make sure you grab those because we want to know where the samples are coming from, and if there's any issues, and we know the location on the lake that it was on. And there is a spot to record fish. If you do go out, feel free to bring out a rod. It's not meant for detailed fish assessments. I know you do that with Keegan, but it's more to complement the water quality data collected that day. So some people like to go out and fish while they're doing this. So here's a spot to record it. And it's good to know if there's ever a question, if the lake has fish populations, then we know if we caught a fish, then at least we know there is some life in there. Okay, and then at the bottom we have a spot for probe calibration, which I will go through right away here, but this is the spot where you will record your barometer and your connectivity calibration solution. Okay, and then this is the back side of your field sheet. So we have a space to record your bottom depth. So you're going to use the tape and weight provided in your probe kit. And we do ask to please measure in meters. The tape and weight does measure in meters and feet. I know even for myself, I'm used to measuring in feet in my normal life, but in the science world, we just love meters. So please record in meters. We've made it really easy and marked our probe cord in meters, so you don't have to do any converting. Just follow along with the guide, the marking guide, and measure your bottom depth in meters, and it just makes it super easy to grab all your probe measurements. And then we have a spot for your chlorophyll filter volumes, and I'll go through the filtering in a bit, but this is where you can record once you get to that step. And then this just helps us make sure everything's matching up for the labs and that they're receiving the right information. And then up top, you can see the YSI probe measurement. So this is where you record your temperature, your dissolved oxygen, and your connectivity values at each depth, starting at 0.1 meters, going to 0.5 meters, and then going to every meter until you reach about a meter above bottom. So if you, let's say, had a bottom depth of 4.3 meters, then we want to stop recording. I'd say you could even go till 4 meters, and then we can look at the data in the office and decide if anything looks funky. Sometimes the probe will end up sitting in the sediment and that can skew the data. So just record to about half meter, a meter above bottom. And then there's a spot here for any additional comments. Some important things you could include if there's any issues calibrating the equipment, that's really good to know and look back on. If you've noticed changing water levels, wildlife, vegetation, if the water quality is off, you could comment on the weather that day, whether it was sunny, stormy, rainy, that kind of stuff. It just gives a better idea of what was happening that day, and it might be able to speak to the data we receive. And then a spot for technician monitor names. So you can add that. And then also we do have a checklist. So make sure you go through that and make sure everything's been completed before you get off the lake or river. Okay, so any questions so far?
None in the chat so far, but if anyone has any questions, like feel free to unmute yourself and just ask that way as well.
Yeah. Okay. And there will be time at the end for questions as well if you'd like to save them. Okay, so we'll talk about before you head out to your water body. So a really important step in summer sampling is to freeze some ice packs the night before. You want to bring these in the cooler with you when you go out onto the lake or river. We want to make sure the samples stay cold, and bring a phone or GPS to find the coordinates, or you can keep track of the GPS coordinates from your previous sampling trip. Make sure your probe battery is charged. These YSIs hold a really good charge. You likely won't have to charge it, but just keep an eye when you turn it on, check the top right corner. Bring out your bottle set with you and make sure that you check on the wind and the weather, even the morning of, if it's very windy, or obviously a storm's coming in, please reschedule. We don't want anyone to be unsafe out on the water body. And then I just talked about GPS points. Depending on the device you use, you might get different formats. None of them are wrong. Please just record all your digits and as you see them onto your field sheet, and then we can do any conversions needed. Okay, and then next step would be calibrating your probe. So again, this is before you go out to your water body. So this can be done at home if you're not too far away from your lake or river, but we do highly recommend that you actually do it at the water body. So you can either do it out the back of your vehicle, just make sure the vehicle's turned off, or at a picnic table if the weather's nice. So calibrating will be done for both dissolved oxygen and connectivity, and I'll just run through these steps right now. And again, these are all listed in the field manual, so please always refer to it if you are unfamiliar with the steps. And make sure for your connectivity calibration that you bring a graduated cylinder, which will be in your filter kit with you. So we'll start with dissolved oxygen. So there's the gray sleeve to the left, the metal guard in the middle, and your actual probe to the right. So these are all the components of your probe. So to begin, you're going to remove that gray sleeve and the guard. You're going to gently dry the surface of the probe tip with a Kim wipe tissue, which will be supplied in your probe kit. There's going to be a little yellow sponge in that gray sleeve. Make sure there's always a little yellow sponge in there. If not, you can just buy like those yellow cleaning sponges, and then just cut out a circle or just let us know and we'll give you a new one. Make sure that sponge is moist. It doesn't have to be soaked, just a little wet. And then you're going to put the metal guard and the gray sleeve back on, and you're going to keep that upright and let it sit for 5 minutes. Okay, and then you can attach the cord to your handheld unit, turn it on with that green button below. And then you're going to press calibration. You're going to choose ODO, that just means optical dissolved oxygen, so the first option. Again, choose DO%, the first option. And then it's going to bring you to the screen with the little black box, and you're going to see two lines below. One is the probe reading itself, and the other is the default within the handheld. So you're gonna give it about a minute, and while you're waiting, this is where you can record your barometer reading. The barometer is just a atmospheric pressure reading, which is why we recommend doing this right at your site. Especially if you're doing multiple lakes in a day, the atmospheric pressure can change if you're traveling even 45 minutes to an hour away. So we would recommend doing this dissolved oxygen calibration if you are traveling to a different lake that's farther away. And then there is that spot on your field sheet to record. Once you want the lines to look stable. You don't want any crazy peaks happening. There might be a little fluctuation, that's fine, but for the most part, they're going to stay stable and straight. Everything looks good except the calibration. If it says it's a questionable calibration, don't accept it. Go back, make sure there's no cracks on the surface, even on that black band. Just make sure everything's looking okay, restart the process, and then give us a call if it's not calibrating properly. And then you can just hit escape a few times until you reach the home screen. And you should always see your temperature, your dissolved oxygen, and your connectivity readings on this main screen in the appropriate units. Okay, and then for connectivity, so connectivity is just the ability of water to conduct that electrical current. So we want to measure this to provide insights into the lake's dissolved ion content, which is really helpful in understanding water quality, the salinity or saltiness, and the nutrient levels within the water. And this can really affect the aquatic life if it's too salty. So we just want to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. So once you've done your DO, you can do your connectivity. So you're going to keep the cord attached to your handheld. You can take the gray sleeve off. Within your chlorophyll filter kit, there's going to be a graduated cylinder. And we're also going to send, just at the bottom right here, a bottle of connectivity calibration solution, and there's going to be a number on that. So that's going to be really important right away. Just to point out where the connectivity sensors actually are. So they're just up top. It's just 2 cells. So you're going to fill up the graduated cylinder with that connectivity calibration solution. Almost to the top, you can put your probe inside with the gray sleeve off, keep the guard on, and we essentially want to cover those 2 cells with the solution. Okay, and then we're going to let that sit for a few minutes, and then you can also record that number on the bottle, which in this example is 987 on the bottom of your field sheet. And then same thing again, you're going to go to the handheld, you're going to press calibration, choose connectivity this time. You're going to choose the first one, specific conductance, and it's going to bring you back to this screen. So a really important step for connectivity is that we have to change that calibration value to match that number that's on the bottle. So again, in that example, it was 987. So you're going to click into the calibration value at the top, manually change it to 987 or whatever that number is on your bottle, click OK, and then again, give it a minute just to calibrate to that value. And if everything looks good, accept the calibration. You should receive a message below that says calibration successful. And then hit escape. You can put the gray sleeve back on, you can turn the unit off, and it's ready to go for the day of sampling. And like I said, again, if you are doing multiple lakes in a day and you are traveling 45 minutes or more to a different lake, we recommend doing the dissolved oxygen calibration again, just in case the barometric reading is different. But the connectivity, you just have to do once for the day. Any questions on calibration? Okay. So now we're going to talk about getting to your site. So once your probe is all calibrated, you're going to make sure that you bring your probe kit with you, your field sheets, your field manuals, and any relevant bottle sets you need for the day, all with cold ice packs in them. And a big component of summer is obviously that we use boats to get out onto the lakes. So we want to make sure the boat is ready to go. Make sure it has enough gas and oil to go out on the lake for an hour or two. Or in the case of canoes, if you're using those, make sure the paddles are in good shape. But just some important things to make sure you have on your boat. An emergency paddle is recommended, but also required. And then obviously having a life jacket or PFD, that is required by Alberta Transportation. You need enough life jackets as many people as you have on your boat. Another important item that's needed is an anchor or sufficient weight, depending on the size of your vessel, along with an attached rope that is of appropriate length for the lake you are sampling. So a rule of thumb we have is for the rope to be twice as long as the maximum depth of your lake. I know in some cases we are unaware of the depth of the lakes because they haven't been sampled before. So just to be safe, having a 20 to 30 meter rope will probably do you good. Obviously, if we realize the lake's deeper, then we'll have to get a longer rope. Um, Either way, it's important to have when you reach your sampling site to help you prevent your vessel from drifting while you take the profile measurements and you collect all your bottles, because you will be sitting there just for an extended period. Also, having a working cell phone or radio with them, especially if service is not great. If you have a satellite device for your team, that would be great. Always checking the weather apps for the current weather conditions. And then just other safety gear to consider: a buoyant rope for rescue purposes, whistle, air horn, yeah, just all things that, or even like a boat repair kit or flashlight, just things to have in case an emergency does occur. Once your boat is equipped and launched, you're going to head out to where you want to sample. Again, that site is your choice. It could be the deepest point in the lake that you know of. It could be where fish spawn. It could be where there's inflow, outflow from the streams or rivers. So we can discuss with you if you need help choosing your site. But once you arrive, you're going to drop your anchor and turn your boat off. We don't want any gas contaminating your sample, and make sure your boat's secure. Another reason why we don't sample in strong winds, not only with the drifting, and it obviously becomes a huge safety concern, but when you are measuring with your probe, it's also going to drift and you're not going to get an accurate reading through your water profile. So we recommend rescheduling if the winds are very strong. And that really could depend on the size of your lake. Sometimes a 20-kilometer-an-hour wind is fine if it's a smaller sheltered lake. Sometimes 15 kilometers could be really hard to sample in if you're in a big open lake. So once you get out there, if you feel conditions aren't great, then just consider rescheduling, and just let me know as well. Okay, so during sampling, so now you're gonna fill out the front side of your field sheet. Make sure you fill out all that sampling information, the environmental observations, and then you're gonna use your tape and weight to measure bottom depth in meters, and then record on the back side of your field sheet. And then also you can fill in those additional comments and anything else you observe. And then you're going to take that Secchi disc in your kit and you're going to measure out the Secchi depth. So again, that measures water clarity. So first and foremost, it's very important to measure the Secchi depth on the shady side of the boat. And to remove your sunglasses. This will minimize the reflection off the water. So wherever the sun is in the sky, head to the opposite side of your boat. Sometimes the sun may be directly above you and there isn't really a shady side. So just do your best to choose what side you think will interfere the least when measuring. And then next you're going to lower your Secchi disc until it's just under the water surface. So this is when you can record that color of the water observed on the Secchi disc on your field sheet. So just take a look, just compare the water against that white stripe again. There is a marking guide in the field manual, and then I think on most of our Secchi discs now we actually have the marking guide written on the board that you'll receive. So make sure you familiarize yourself with that as you're lowering it in. They're all marked in colored cable ties. So just you want to keep an eye on that as you're counting, just so we get appropriate depths. So once you've grabbed your color, you're going to begin to slowly lower your Secchi disc, keeping an eye on that white stripe. Once it just disappears from your view, you're going to record that depth on your field sheet. And then you're going to slowly raise the Secchi disc back up until you can barely just see that white stripe again. And you're going to record that depth. And then you can raise your Secchi disc back up, and then on your field sheet, to calculate the Secchi depth, you're just going to take the average of your disappear depth and your reappear depth. Okay, so for example, if your Secchi disc disappeared from view at 2.7 meters, but then became visible again at 2.1 meters, then your average would be 2.4 meters, and that is your Secchi depth. And I have included a link on our website to the Pigeon Lake Watershed Association training video for Secchi depth, so this is a good visual reference if anyone is interested in that. Okay, and then next you're going to measure your profile using the YSI probe. So again, I talked about that marking guide. Everything's already marked in meters. The table that you're going to fill out follows meters, so you don't have to convert it all. Just follow each taped marking and the marking guide in your field manual. We always start with a surface reading, 0.1 meters. So that's going to be that blue tape line. So you can just take the gray sleeve off and lower to that first mark. Give it about a minute just to let it acclimate to the water. And then one person can lower the probe, another person can record. So read out the measurements for temperature, dissolved oxygen, and connectivity at 0.1 meters to your field sheet recorder, and then move on to 0.5 meters. So that would be your pink tape line. And then just repeat this process again until you reach half a meter to a meter above your bottom depth. Okay, and then the next step is to collect all of your bottles. So the steps pretty much the same. I'm not gonna talk about it too long. I think there's about 10 bottles now in the regular set, but a few key points to highlight. Please label, first of all, label all your bottles, but also label them before you start dipping them into the lake. It's makes it a lot more difficult to label once the bottles are wet. And please label the bottles with the same time. So if you have a 1 o'clock start time, label all your bottles as 1 o'clock. Okay. And then you're going to put on the yellow gloves provided. If you feel more comfortable, some people don't want algae touching them, which is totally fair. So you put them on, reach down as far as you comfortably can, and fill up the bottles. And then put them all back into your cooler with your cold ice pack. Just a few bottles to keep an eye on though, is your microcystin bottle. This one only needs to be filled 3/4 full. So just leave a little bit of headspace so that it doesn't burst when it gets stored in the freezer. Another is any bottles that have yellow labels. These indicate that they need preservatives. So a yellow capped vial of sulfuric acid will always be attached to these particular bottles. So please just make sure you remove that vial before you dip it into the lake. Just hold it in one hand and then fill up that bottle, and then you can add the preservative after. You just invert the bottle a couple times just to mix it in. There are nitrile gloves and safety goggles included in the kit to add the preservative if you want. And the most important bottle to please be mindful of is the total ammonia. So this is one of the glass vial bottles that will be in a bubble pack. So please always look at the bottle labels to know which ones you need to pay attention to. This bottle is specifically pre-charged, so that means the preservative is already in the bottle. So please don't fill it up in the lake. You can use that large routine labeled bottle to carefully fill it up in the boat. Just make sure to not overfill it, and then it can go back into the bubble pack to avoid breaking. There is a dissolved ammonia bottle that is also in the bubble pack with it. This one can be filled in the lake, or if you want to be safe, you can just also fill it up with that routine bottle. Okay, so are there any questions for these sampling steps while you're on the water?
We don't have any in the chat so far, but again, if anyone just wants to unmute their mic, feel free to just ask your question.
Yeah. Okay. And then as I mentioned, I do the seasonal field visits. So I will always bring the contaminant bottle set, which we collect once per season per lake. So again, that includes the mercury, the metals, and the hydrocarbons. Some of them have quicker hold times, so it's just makes it easy for you guys also for me to come out and sample with you, get these back to Edmonton as fast as possible, and get them out to the labs. So these won't be a part of your regular bottle sets, just the one time when I come out throughout the summer. And then for those communities who are doing the river monitoring or stream monitoring, there is a separate field manual and field sheets that will be provided. The calibration steps for the YSI, they're identical to lake monitoring. The only difference is instead of taking a full depth profile like we do in lakes, you only collect a single reading just below the surface for temperature, dissolved oxygen, and connectivity. River and stream monitoring do have their own specific field. Oh yeah, they have their own field manuals, which will be provided. So the most important safety gear for river monitoring includes waders and rope for securing or safety support, and a life jacket, especially if you are working in more fast-moving water. When you're choosing your sampling location, we want to aim for the middle of the main flow where water movement is noticeable. We want to avoid stagnant areas or those eddies, as these are not representative of the river's overall condition. So as you wade in, try not to disturb the sediment on the riverbed to prevent contamination. You're going to collect your sample upstream of yourself, just under the surface around 10 centimeters deep, and avoid floating debris or insects. Just be careful not to introduce pollutants like fuel or cigarette smoke while handling the samples. That's same with lake sampling as well. Label your bottles clearly, date and time, again, all the same time, and then store them with a cooler in your and the ice packs. And then please record your water temperature during the sampling and just make a note of any relevant site conditions. Fill out your field sheets fully, and then follow all the same preservation requirements that we just went over for the bottles for the lakes. It's going to be the exact same for the river. Okay, so after sampling, when you get back to the office or your house, there are some bottle storage protocols I want to talk about. Especially if you're not planning to ship samples back out to our office the same day, then they do have to be stored properly overnight. So this is in the field manual. This is a chart. Most of them get stored in the fridge to be kept cold. Don't put them in the freezer. But the ones to look after is the microsystem. This one actually does get stored in the freezer. That's why we only fill it up 3/4 full. Sometimes they burst if it's too full and too cold. And then with the chlorophyll, if you are unable to filter right away, that's fine. You can just throw that brown bottle in the fridge. Just keep in mind that you do need to filter within 24 hours of your collection time. And then once filtering is complete and you have your 3 filter papers, these can be stored in a Ziploc bag in the freezer, and I'll be going through the filter steps right away. So all this will be provided to you. All this equipment, we've got our hand pump, we've got our filter apparatus, our wash bottle, our graduated cylinder, and the filter papers. And I know most of you are familiar with these steps, but it's always a good refresher. And again, these are all provided in the field manual. So to begin, you're going to unscrew that filter top. With the tweezers provided, you're going to place the filter paper on that filter bottom, screw the top back on. Okay, and then we can begin. So one key difference between winter and summer sampling is the amount of water you may need to filter. So in the summer, algae growth typically increases as the season progresses, which often means you'll get more color on your filter papers, as opposed to winter lakes is usually more clear and you might not see as much pigment. And the goal of filtering for the chlorophyll A is to get just a bit of color on each filter paper, not to saturate it. It's for the labs to analyze. So that faint color indicates algae presence, and we want to keep in mind that the brown bottle holds 1 liter of lake water. Since we do need to produce 3 filter papers from this bottle, it's critical that you do not filter more than 300 milliliters per filter paper, um, because filtering beyond that might leave you without enough water to sample and successfully complete that triplicate sample. So the amount of water you need to filter varies depending on the nutrient level of your lake. So for some higher nutrient lakes, filtering just 20 to 50 milliliters may be enough to see a visible color. For lower nutrient lakes, you might need to filter the full 300 milliliters. That's totally fine. If you don't see color, just make sure you stop at 300 milliliters and keep track of your filter volumes as you go, especially on that first paper. So to begin, you're going to wet your filter paper with a small amount of pure water from the squirt bottle that's provided in your kit. You're going to hook up the hand pump to your filter apparatus and gently apply pressure to allow the water to filter down. Then you can shake the chlorophyll bottle up to gently mix the sample. And then we recommend for your first filter, you could start 50 milliliters. So measure that out in the graduated cylinder, pour it onto the filter paper and begin pumping. And then you're going to look for that slight color change. If you don't notice a color change, then you can go ahead and add another 50 milliliters. If you're having trouble seeing if there's any color, you can unscrew the top of the filter apparatus and check for color against that stark white edge of the filter paper. So you're just going to continue in 50 milliliters increments until you either see some color or you've reached that 300 milliliter maximum. Let's say you did filter out 50 milliliters to start and you do see color. Then you're going to triple rinse with your pure water in your squirt bottle. You're going to rinse out your graduated cylinder 3 times, pour it into the filter apparatus, pump it down, and then also clean the inside of your filter apparatus, rinse that 3 times just to ensure that there's no sample left, and pump that down. And then the next step is to add 3 drops of magnesium carbonate onto the filter paper, 3 to 5. Don't worry too much if you add a few extra. And it's preservative just to make sure the sample doesn't degrade quickly. And then you can unscrew the top part, and then using the tweezers, you're going to carefully fold the filter paper in half twice. Just avoid touching any portion of the paper that has chlorophyll on it. And you're going to put the filter paper into the Petri dish. And then a really important step is to fill out the filter labels that we've provided. So we need the lake name, the date, and your filter volume. So again, you're going to keep track. So if you, let's say you filtered 55 milliliters, please just write that. We need to make sure that matches to the samples that we're giving to the labs, and that it's matched to the appropriate lake name as well. And then you're going to wrap it in tin foil just to reduce that light exposure. And you're going to stick the label right over top of that aluminum foil. And then that's your first sample, and that can go into a Ziploc bag. And then you're going to do this twice more. So many of you have already done the filtering. So just always keep in mind that you need to have 3 filter papers. You're aiming to now match the filter volume to your first one. And again, if you, let's say, measured 50 milliliters on your first filter paper, but then on the second one, you accidentally measured 60 milliliters, that's totally okay. Just make sure you record it on your field sheet. You don't have to dump any back into the bottle. Just be accurate with how much you're measuring. And you might notice too, as you're filtering, that the bottom of the filter apparatus might be getting full of water. So you can just unscrew the top, take off that bottom, and actually dump it into, we're gonna start providing a waste bottle. I know in the past we've said you can dump it outside. Some new information's come that has come to light that suggests not dumping outside just in case, again, reducing that risk of aquatic invasive species, especially if you end up going into a different watershed. So we'll provide a waste bottle, just dump all that water into there and we'll dispose of it at our office. Okay, that's always such a mouthful to read out. This is all in the field manual. Is there any questions on the filtering steps?
I don't see any in the chat, but if anyone wants to ask any, feel free right now as well.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like a lot of steps, but honestly, once you do even your first lake, especially those who are doing multiple lakes, you're just going to become professional chlorophyll filters and you feel like a scientist donning your gloves. So just make sure you always follow the steps. You can have someone read them out as you go, just to make sure you don't miss anything. Okay, so for shipping, we do provide a shipping slip, so that will have our Pure account number on there. Please use that. You don't have to pay for shipping. We have our address on there. Please always choose overnight or express, just so the samples get back to us as soon as possible. Try to plan to ship the samples back the same day or by the next day at the latest. A lot of the bottles have a hold time of 3 days. So from the collection time, so if you ship back to us the next day, it'll come to our office the day after and we can get them out to the labs within those hold times. Be sure to check with your local Pure location spot for the overnight cutoff times. In the field manual, I've provided now various Pure locations in all the towns up north, along with the cutoff time. So just if you're unsure when that is, please take a look at that. Please include all your samples. Make sure you grab your filter papers out of the freezer once you've gathered all 3 of them. Make sure you grab your microcystin out of the freezer. Put some cold ice packs in with your samples, and then please include a copy of your field sheet. This is really important for us to get that information quickly, make sure the labs get the appropriate information. So please include a copy, put it into a Ziploc bag to keep it from getting wet when it's being transported. You can email a copy or send a picture to me as well. Please just do it the same day you ship everything back. And please email or text a picture of the tracking number to my email below, or a lot of you have my number as well. Just send me a quick picture and then I'll keep an eye on the shipment as it's make sure there's no delays. Okay, just some considerations for the summer. So for the sampling schedule, please sample between Sunday to Wednesdays, just to ensure the samples are not being shipped on the weekends, as we're not open on the weekends, and that they won't exceed the hold times. Thursday sampling can occur, but only if you are able to ship out the next or like the same day. So if you're doing multiple lakes in a day, please consider sampling earlier in the week. We do recommend leaving at least 2 weeks between each sampling trip just to provide that variability in the data and allow the lakes to progress through their seasonal changes. The weather can be a much bigger hindrance, surprisingly, in the summer than winter. Again, we talked about strong winds, storms. We do experience a lot of wildfires, unfortunately. So just consider a backup date. Keep in touch with me if things change. That's totally fine. You do have from June to September to collect those 4 samples. And just note our office closures here. They are also listed in the field manual. I think those are all our long weekends and stat holidays. And then for your boat selection, just make sure your boat is able to fit a probe kit, your sampling gear, safety gear, and the bottle sets. We have motorized boats that go out. I've sampled in kayaks with communities. Those, what do you call them? Pedal boats. So depending on the size of your lake and the access options, it doesn't matter what you sample in as long as you are not sampling just offshore. We want to make sure we get more to the middle of the lake and collecting samples from there, as it's going to be more representative of the conditions. And then, yeah, just some next steps. A lot of you already have been in contact with me and you've let me know which lakes you have in your work plan. So if you haven't talked to me yet, please let me know. I'm going to then look at our analytical budget and I'll let you know what we can support this year. If you need any additional gear, please let us know. Your own OSIM contract will cover quite a bit of this, and then our contract covers quite a bit of equipment. So, but just let us know if you need assistance with anything. We'll follow up soon to make a shipping or drop-off plan for gear and equipment. I am planning to make a trip up north early June, so I might plan to do a few drop-offs along my way as I've done the last couple seasons. And then I will be keeping in touch with each community, schedule a field visit. I try to prioritize new communities in June so that I can come out with them for their first field visit. Have spoken again with most communities. So if you've already been participating the last few years, I'll likely visit you later in the summer. But on that note too, we are at 13 communities now, which is amazing. But that means also that we're, I believe, over 30 lakes to cover now. And it's just me. So I do have my coworker, she's actually online right now, Kirsten Latender. A lot of you probably have met her through workshops, through sampling these last few years. So she is going to be assisting me with field visits this summer. So we'll be coordinating with you to figure out dates. And if I can't make it out, then she's going to come help you out. And we decided just to keep the same name just to make it easy for all of you. Okay. So one of the core goals of the ICBM program is to build that strong long-term environmental monitoring capacity within Indigenous communities. And this is by the community for the community. And as a nonprofit, with alms, like we don't earn money from this work. And our mission is simple. It's healthy lakes for Alberta's future. So in this program, we're here to support and not direct. So we just want to help ensure that the data you collect remains credible and consistent and defensible, especially if it ever is questioned by the government or industry. So with that, we will be starting kind of a lessons learned updates every month or two. These will be short, anonymous check-ins, either via email or maybe I'm thinking updating on the Google Drives. And this is just to share helpful tips and reminders, share some common issues we've seen across the program. If you feel your community has struggled with anything, it's very likely another has as well. We know some communities have been doing this work for years, and sometimes when we're working from memory or routine, small protocol updates can be missed, which is completely normal. So I guess this new like check-in system is just to create opportunity for shared learning where we can all grow stronger by learning from each other's experiences, what's going well, what's been missed, how we can improve together. So that's our job at Alms and through this program is to keep lines of communication open, make sure you're trained and that you feel confident using the equipment and collecting the samples in order to support your success. Because in the end, this data belongs to you and your community. And the stronger it is, the stronger your voices will be in protecting your waters and lands. So never hesitate to reach out to me with questions, even if you're on the boat in the middle of sampling. Please email me or give me a call or our OMS office. Our team is wonderful and can likely answer your questions and fix a problem on the spot. And with that too, just please check your emails and your Google Drive folders frequently, just for updates, invites, and for the information sharing. I know a lot of the technicians and monitors, they're out in the field. They're not usually sitting at their computers. So I'm relying on the community member point of contacts or leaders to make sure that the monitors are always up to date, viewing things like the training webinars, or if we do provide those lesson learned updates, just make sure everyone's on the same page. And we have some exciting news. We've had a colleague, she has been working very hard for months compiling these training videos for each of our programs, and we do have one upcoming for ICBM summer. So we're hoping to have that available at the end of May at our website. I will also send a link out to everyone once it is available. I'm really hoping this is going to be a great training tool. We understand everyone learns differently. That's why we provide these kind of webinars. If you're more of an auditory learner, we have the field manuals. If you like reading and visually reading that kind of instruction, and then these training videos now, you can follow along as we I guess, yeah, I guess as we were demonstrating in these videos. So hopefully this will be a great tool that you can use and access throughout the year. We will have one for the winter, hopefully this year as well. Okay, with that, I'm just gonna do a quick tour of the Google Drive. So as I mentioned, this is newer. This last season, I've been setting up these Google Drive community folders for each community, and it hosts information such as the annual ICBM data reports, copies of the field sheets, all the raw lab data, field photos, and then other resources. So I might start putting updated field sheets and manuals in there that you can access throughout the whole season. This might be where I also host that lessons learned update. So I'll let you guys know, but I'm just going to switch out of this, see how this goes. Okay. Can everyone see this Google Drive screen?
Yeah, it looks like it's good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I just created a fake community for today. But this is what you should be seeing once you have access. I think everyone now should have access to their Google Drive folder except the newer communities. I will get you set up soon for that. If you don't have access to this yet, or you have tried and you can't get in, please let me know after this webinar today. We can get that sorted out. But what you should be seeing is, first of all, only your own folder. Please let me know if it seems like that you have access to other folders, especially other community folders. Please let me know right away. But you should have access to just your stuff. And then we have things like annual data reports, field photos, field sheets, lab reports, and resources. So this is where, when you click in, it's sorted by the different years. So the 2023, 2024 reports are being completed right now. Some have received already, some will be receiving soon. That I will let you know once it's uploaded into these folders, but you should be receiving a PowerPoint presentation, a PDF copy of that presentation, and then your Excel file, which contains all your metadata and all the raw data from the labs. And then you can go back here. Again, field photos all sorted by the different years. So when I come out, if you're okay with me taking pictures, I love capturing everyone in the moment while they're hard at work. I get pictures of the lakes, things like that. So everything will be uploaded into here. If you have any field photos to share, by all means, please feel free to throw them in here. We love to see it. Your field sheet. So this is just an example from one of our other programs. So all the field sheets you fill out, we do scan, and then I'll post them into here. So then you always have a copy for your records. And then your lab reports. So again, divided into the different years. And then within that, it's divided into the different labs. So ACFT, that's your microsystem. The basal lab is out of the U of A. That's the Biogeochemical Analytical Services Lab. That looks at the mercury data. Bureau Veritas, or BV, that looks at all your nutrients. So that's a pretty extensive list. Again, this is just an example from one of our other programs. You guys will see a lot more parameters in here, but this is all the raw data with your nutrients, your ions, just a bunch of different things. So this is what gets interpreted for your annual data reports as well. And then we have Inotech, and Inotech actually tests the chlorophyll, your metals, and the isotopes as well. The isotopes are still currently, we don't have capacity to analyze them yet. We are working on doing that. That's looking at groundwater impacts. But you can find your chlorophyll data in here. Again, just an example from a different program. And I know these numbers probably don't mean anything to you, but again, these are good to have for your own records, and then you will receive these in the interpreted annual reports. And if you ever have any questions about a report, please let me know. And then SGS Access is the hydrocarbons, and that's a really big report with a lot of different parameters on it as well. And then, like I said, this will just be a nice space to host various resources that might be helpful to you guys for sampling. So, however is easiest for you to access this. Once I send the request, then whatever, if you want to make a quick link to it, if you can store it away, you can just access it from the main Google page. So just make sure you know where to find this. And also, if I haven't set you up yet, or you notice that someone doesn't have access that you want to have in your community, just let me know. I just have to grab their email, and they can be added in, no problem. Anything else on that? I think for now, that's good. Is there any questions on the Google Drives?
I don't see any in the chat right now. We just had a few people that had to sneak out just a little bit early, but otherwise, nope, nothing else.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and if you notice, so I'll just be adding the reports in as I get them through this summer. If you notice anything's missing, especially from previous years, just let me know right away. Sometimes the labs like to batch them. So I just have to separate them. I have to manually separate everything just so communities aren't getting each other's. So if you do notice any mistakes or you do notice some other community data on these reports, please let me know right away. We just want to respect that data sovereignty until agreements come through.
We do have a question here from Ann
Mhm.
Kirsten.
Yeah.
Ann's asking, I'm wondering if a baseline or a healthy level could be put on the sheets to compare with.
Yeah, like kind of a guideline, or like indicator sheet. Yeah, I have been thinking about that. I would like to kind of make a general baseline, just kind of like a quick look almost. When you do look at chlorophyll data, let's say it's 16 micrograms per liter, it's like, where does that immediately fall? Like, obviously, we'll go into more detail in the reports, but I do like that idea. I have been considering that. So, that would be a good something I would put in the resources tab then, and I will update everyone when I compile that. Even for
Hi,
ourselves,
Kirsten.
that's good.
Hi,
Sorry.
Kirsten. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Stuart.
Hi, how's it going? Yeah, the boys are Caden and Louie are at another course today here, so but I'll
Yeah, no
probably
problem.
have to get you on the line maybe later on a few
Yeah,
days just to
sure.
give them an update because we haven't used this Google Drive or nothing like that
Yeah,
before.
of course. Yeah, and this is recorded, this whole session. I will be sending it to you guys this week. It will be available on our website, so you can always review it at any point. But absolutely, if you want to meet at a separate time and go through all this again, we definitely can.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Um, so with that, I think we're at the end here. Is there any questions I can answer right now? I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone for joining in today. Obviously, thank you to the Oil Sands Monitoring Program, our funders, and allows this work to happen. I do have my contact information just here. I think most of you have it, and my number as well. So, but just in case, no, that doesn't want to come. Okay,
I just have one quick question.
sure.
So I know just because I've only had I guess I've only had some oh wait, where's my notes here? I had a question here. Oh, so for the summer sampling, just because it's like I guess it probably takes a little more time because you're unloading a boat and then you're getting out there and then
Mhm.
coming back loading up a boat.
Yeah.
Would it be ideal still to get all three lakes done in a day? Like if we're choosing three lakes, would it be ideal
Mhm.
to want to get them done in a day, or could it be like one a day or two one day and one the next, just as long as we're not um shipping out on a Friday, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great question. There are communities now doing multiple lakes. So some communities might do two lakes in a day, and finish off the last one the next day. Some do one lake a day. And then they'll just like ship at the end of each day or maybe send two at once. So yeah, as
Okay,
long
so it's
as,
kind of just our discretion on how fast we
yeah,
could get it done. Okay.
exactly. And don't feel like you have to get all three done. Like I said, there is a 3-day hold time, so you could do two in one day, go out and do your next one in the morning, filter everything, and then you could ship out that afternoon. And again, that's a good point to keep in mind is please then don't ship out to us on a Friday. The samples are just going to sit in the Purelator warehouse in Edmonton, and they're going to get warm, and then they're not going to be useful or credible samples. So yeah, that's why we just recommend going out between Sunday and Wednesdays. If you're only doing one lake, you could go out a Thursday morning and ship out that afternoon, but that's also keeping in mind, I think Lac La Biche actually has a really quick cutoff time for overnight. I think it's at noon. So
Yeah, it's like noon, yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
know when I sent those summer
yes.
samples, I was like rushing trying to get there because they said their truck was waiting and
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
but
yes, and that's the thing too.
and it was like way before noon actually.
Yeah, exactly. So just to be safe, leave yourself
Yeah.
enough time, don't rush. Keep in communication with me if it's like, you know what, the wind ruined our second day and we can't get that third lake this week, that's totally fine. They don't all have to be done at the same time, but just you want to aim that you're getting each lake done each month from June to September. That's all.
Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other questions I can answer right now?